Next on the news.
The bottom line is this. I truly believe we've made extraordinary progress by laying a new foundation for our economy.
Pinch pockets and a possible recession on the horizon, but optimism from the White House today. We'll tell you why. Then we're waiting and watching the Supreme Court on the verge of a landmark abortion ruling, while violence is looming in the pro-life fight. Both fires and flooding creating life-threatening conditions at Yellowstone National Park. Plus this.
It's one of those great cases where you show up and nobody's injured.
The Coast Guard making an amazing save, rescuing a boat crew stranded at sea. I'm Michelle Powers. Current News starts right now. Tonight, Americans are bracing for impact and losing faith. A recession could be on its way. Inflation is at a 40-year high, and the stock market is struggling to stay in the green. Today, a crucial meeting that could see the interest rate hike yet again. Isabel Rosales has the story.
Investors are on edge as the Federal Reserve is headed for rough waters. The central bank is debating raising the interest rate by 0.75 percentage point. Unseen since 1994. The goal is to cool down the economy and tame inflation, President Joe Biden's top economic priority.
Jobs are back, but prices are still too high. COVID is down, but gas prices are up. Our work isn't done.
Without many options to fight price hikes or gas prices, Biden instead touting ultra-low unemployment numbers and some economic recovery from the pandemic.
I've never been more optimistic about America than I am today.
Plus, a key inflation reading showing a small glimmer of hope Tuesday, revealing a slight slowdown in rising prices.
Inflation has been a real problem in the country, and it is proving to be stickier and more stubborn than officials had hoped.
So what can you do to protect your money? Financial experts say continue to invest in your 401ks and retirement accounts.
Don't panic. And the reason I say that is, how many times have we seen the market go down?
The next steps depends on your financial situation and how much time you have left before retirement.
If you're somebody out there living paycheck to paycheck, or you don't have an emergency fund, or you're not funding a retirement account, you should stop going out to eat, going on vacation, and doing all those things.
Bottom line, cut down on the non-essentials. Isabel Rosales, Currents News.
So a recession could be coming any day. And there's also something else on its way that could change the country. The Supreme Court ruling on abortion. When exactly will the ruling come down? We don't know that for sure, but if it goes in the direction of the draft opinion, it could eliminate the court's recognition of a constitutional right to the procedure. Violence has been flaring up across the country and in the Capitol, and police are gearing up for chaos, ramping up security and adding overtime shifts. And a new development, lawmakers have now approved a bill to provide additional security to Supreme Court justices and their immediate families in light of all the recent threats against them. Just last week, a California man carrying a handgun, ammunition, a crowbar, and pepper spray was arrested outside the home of Justice Kavanaugh. He was charged with attempted murder. Following the vote, President Biden needs to sign the measure into law, and he's expected to do so. In addition to the attempted murder, there's already been multiple violent face-offs. Pro-life pregnancy centers have been tagged with graffiti, and some have even been firebombed. Following that initial leak, Currents News' Christine Persichetti spoke with Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan, about the growing divide in our country. He said it's going to take a huge effort to change hearts and minds.
Most people don't want to see abortion on demand through the entire 9 months of pregnancy. By far, people don't want that. But the way the atmosphere is right now, you can't even have that discussion. Right. And so what will happen as a result if the case does go in that direction is it gives a chance for an honest debate and for some legitimate regulation.
Bishop Brennan and others around the United States said that any woman who is pregnant and in need can come to the Catholic Church, and they will provide these services and support to carry your baby to term. To keep that promise, the bishops launched a resources page. Just go to nyscatholic.org .org/help for moms, and you can find a pro-life center by you. There's also a statewide map that directs you to local Catholic parishes that have ministries available to serve mothers in need. Now back to that firebombing we mentioned. Police still haven't found out who set the Buffalo Pro-Life Center on fire. The incident happened on the morning of June 6th in Amherst, that's a suburb of Buffalo. The agency, Msgr, posted photos of the damage showing shattered windows, a scorched office, and the words "Jane was here" spray painted along the side of the building. The message is typical of the anarchist group Jane's Revenge, who claim to be planning a night of rage when the Supreme Court releases its opinion. Bishops across the country are hoping that doesn't happen. They released this statement, reading in part, "We urge our elected officials to take a strong stand against this violence and our law enforcement authorities to increase their vigilance in protecting those who are in increased danger." Now, if the court does decide to overturn the decades-long abortion ruling, the abortion rights would be left up to the states. And like we said, no Supreme Court decision yet, but both Currents News and The Tablet will have continuing coverage of the opinion once it does come down. So to be sure to stay with us on the air and online. A major gun control measure is expected to come up for debate on the floor of the Senate sometime this week. The framework for the bipartisan legislation was announced on Sunday. It calls for red flag laws and enhanced background checks for gun buyers. The senators who support it say they're hopeful a bill created from it would pass, but House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said that more is still needed. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is joining in on the gun fight as well. In a letter addressed to lawmakers, the bishops called gun violence another pro-life issue. They said this: bipartisanship is never more important than when it required to protect life and end the culture of death. We invite you to support these measures and be part of the building up of the culture of life that is so needed in our society, not just as elected officials, but as mothers and fathers, grandparents and aunts and uncles of little children, of teachers whom you expect to return home safely. The bishops also want you to help protect life by reaching out to Congress to urge them to pass gun control measures. They've made it pretty easy for you. Just go to votervoice.net/USCCB/campaigns and click on Urge Congress to Act on Gun Violence. There you'll see a pre-written letter for lawmakers already ready to go. You just have to enter your own information. Governor Kathy Hochul has already started strengthening gun control laws in New York State. The new measures ban anyone under the age of 21 from buying or owning a semi-automatic rifle. They also bolster red flag laws and limit the sale of body armor only to law enforcement. Governor Hochul has called on the governors of other states to step up and take similar actions against gun violence. And many seem to be doing so. The governor of Ohio has signed a bill into law allowing school staff to be armed with less training. Under the measure, the required hours of training for all armed school personnel would be reduced from 700 to just 24. The training would also include how to stop an active shooter, de-escalation techniques, and first aid care. While there is support, some education officials do oppose it.
We are setting school employees who would be armed in our schools up for disastrous consequences if we see a lot of districts move forward with this very, very low training standard.
The bill was opposed by major law enforcement groups and gun control advocates and supported by a handful of police departments and school districts. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, they're taking a different approach to the gun control debate, choosing instead to focus on school safety. They're not trying there to curb guns. On Tuesday, City Council President Darrell Clark introduced a $1.8 million spending plan to buy and install 100+ security cameras near 15 Philadelphia schools. The plan also includes replacing old cameras that aren't working. The idea is that these cameras will deter crime and help police track down perpetrators if they do attack. The City Council will vote on the spending plan within the next 2 weeks, and officials believe it is likely to pass. Summer is just days away, and scientists say a mega drought across the western U.S. could get even worse. Some farmers already have had their water sources cut off. And as Mike Malero reports, it could make the strain on food supplies even worse, especially in California.
As scarce water showers shades of gold across browning fields, the predictions are dire.
It's scary to think that we may not be able to do this because we don't have the water to do it.
Richard Bianchi is a fourth-generation farmer here in Hollister, California. His fields, farm, and family are now facing the U.S. megadrought, which scientists say is the worst western dry spell in 1,200 years. More than 90% of the West is in a drought, and Bianchi's most reliable water source is now shut off.
So to be clear, Richard, you're getting no water, 0% from your best water source.
Correct.
What are the biggest impacts? How would you explain that to somebody outside of Hollister?
It's limiting the amount of ground that we can farm. It's limiting the amount of the intensity that we can farm.
Bianchi has no choice but to pump lower quality groundwater into his fields, and he's not sure how long that'll last. Less water limits the crops he can grow, and he tells us that reduces our choices at the grocery store. Economists say less supply pushes prices even higher, more pain on top of sky-high inflation. The drought leaves fields fallow, and scientists say fuels historic infernos.
Climate science connects deepening droughts with dried up earth all around us to longer, more severe wildfire seasons. In fact, the fires in New Mexico started much earlier this year than in years past, and right now, it's only spring.
Federal officials tell us the nightmare is already here. Up to 3/4 of Northern California's farming fields could stay fallow, growing nothing this summer. For Bianchi, whether there's a future for a fifth generation of his family's farmers is now in doubt.
Are we going to have water in 2-3 years out of our aquifer? Nobody could say that.
In Hollister, California, I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
And on our Flag Day, the strong right arm of the Catholic Church led some young Americans in song. That's the Knights of Columbus. They sponsored their 15th annual Flag Day ceremony for the students at Immaculate Conception Catholic Academy in Astoria. At this year's celebration, they honored FDNY firefighter Timothy Klein, who died in April while battling a 3-alarm house fire in Canarsie. They also honored a Navy veteran and alumni from the school, Jim Anderson. That hero served during the Cuban Missile Crisis and is currently a member of the Knights of Columbus there. There's a lot more news headed your way. It's a cherished national park. Next, how flooding and fires are making it dangerous for tourists. Hundreds of thousands of people without power in part of the Midwest in the middle of extreme heat. And gas at his station sold for 69 cents a gallon, but now the manager is paying a price for the mistake.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
Dangerous flooding conditions gripping the area of Yellowstone National Park as the rising waters are just sweeping away homes. But that's not the only problem. There's also a raging inferno at the world's first national park. And the park has been shut down for visitors because of the life-threatening conditions. Meredith Wood has the latest.
More of the hills just gave.
Danger at Yellowstone National Park, turning tourists away. All entrances to one of America's most popular outdoor vacation spots have been temporarily closed for at least the next 2 days. Unprecedented rainfall has rivers rising to record-breaking levels and is unleashing life-threatening mudslides and massive rock slides. Park officials warning on Facebook, quote, effective immediately, no inbound visitor traffic will be allowed into the park until conditions stabilize and the park can assess damage to roads and bridges and other facilities. To the southwest, Mother Nature's fury is being felt in the form of fire. The sheep fire in Southern California's Angeles National Forest has led authorities to issue mandatory evacuation orders. And the pipeline fire near Flagstaff, Arizona, forcing hundreds of households to flee the fast-moving flames. Thousands more have been told to prepare to evacuate at a moment's notice.
Kind of a little anxious, restless at times, a little afraid. Earlier when I saw the smoke coming, I was a little bit terrified.
I'm Meredith Wood reporting.
And that's not the end of the extreme weather around the country. More than 300,000 people are without power across Ohio amid extreme heat conditions. Monday night, severe weather across the southern part of the state triggered so many outages. Lightning, high winds, and heavy rain took down trees and power lines around Cincinnati. Utility companies say they're working as quickly as they can to safely restore the power. Some parts of Ohio are even experiencing road closures. Now to a story we first told you about on Monday. It was a gas station glitch where drivers were filling up for 69 cents a gallon. But now the manager at that California location is paying a hefty price for the mistake. Steve Large has the latest details.
So how did it happen? Well, it was a mistake that I did,
John Cezina is the gas station manager making a mea culpa.
And I thought, this is a nightmare.
After he gave hundreds of drivers an opportunity to save thousands of dollars on premium grade gasoline.
And I put all three prices on there, except the diesel. But the last one kind of didn't go, right.
Cezina accidentally put a decimal in the wrong spot and began selling the $6.99 gas for just 69 cents.
We ain't playing today.
People started posting the low price on social media and calling friends and family. The lines formed fast to guzzle it up. What's your feeling for that?
Well, I would have done the same thing.
Cezina was fired Monday after the decimal point debacle. Now his family has started a GoFundMe for him with the goal of raising $16,000 the gas station lost in revenue and paying it back. They're worried besides being terminated, he could be sued.
Should he be concerned at all that he might have to pay this money?
Craig Zimmerman is a business attorney who says employees are protected from liability in cases like this, where they make mistakes performing normal job duties.
The only way he would be responsible, absent a written agreement, is if he was acting outside the scope of his employment. For instance, if his boss said, whatever you do, don't ever set the price on that gas pump. And then he did.
A gas station glitch turning into a gift for drivers and a goodbye for this station manager, now seeking a new job.
So I just took responsibility for it, and I said, yeah, it's my fault. And
that was Steve Large reporting. The last time gas prices on average were 69 cents a gallon was in 1978. Still to come on Currents News, they were stranded at sea. Next, what happened to a boat racing crew whose vessel capsized. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. It was a dramatic rescue at sea. A boat crew racing from Washington State to Alaska had to be plucked from the water by a helicopter. Luckily, they're all okay now. As Graham Johnson reports, it's all thanks to the U.S. Coast Guard and race officials.
You can see conditions in the Strait of Juan de Fuca when some of the first participants in the race to Alaska got into trouble. This Coast Guard photo shows a capsized trimaran. The race's Facebook page includes a picture of another trimaran that lost its mast and videos from other sailors on the stormy sea.
Conditions have changed dramatically since we left the start. Really big rollers out here, wind is shifted.
The Coast Guard says 4 people ended up in the water.
We have you in sight. We're moving to your position at this time.
Petty Officer Tyler Gant, a Coast Guard rescue swimmer, saved 2 of them who were clinging to their capsized boat.
It's one of those great cases where you show up and nobody's injured. They just need to get out of there.
Swimmers in the water.
Gant jumped free fall right out of the helicopter, which hovered 15 feet above the churning sea. What's that like doing that?
It's awesome. I mean, there's no other word to really describe it. It's just awesome.
Gant got the first man into the rescue basket, then the second. A Coast Guard boat picked up another race participant out of the water, and a race official rescued a 4th.
The only thing injured today were some egos.
The race to Alaska from Port Townsend to Ketchikan is only for human or sail-powered craft. The first leg to Victoria qualifies teams to keep going. Because of a gale warning, organizers gave everyone an extra 24 hours to get to Victoria, hoping people would wait out the weather.
Being really obvious about extending and why we're extending that so that people could make the choice that made most sense for them and their vessel. We try not to be prescriptive on that.
It is an adventure race, and some sailboats made it to Victoria in near record time. And race organizers tell me they have 7 rescue boats only for this first leg of the race. Those continuing on from Victoria to Alaska are largely on their own. In Seattle, Washington, I'm Graham Johnson.
Speaking of those on their own, we have a happy update from the Irish rowers we introduced you to last week. Remember, they are currently attempting a transatlantic journey from New York to Galway, and they're getting there one row at a time. Damien and Fergus have made some decent headway. Take a look. They've passed the Diocese of Brooklyn and have hit the open ocean. They are attempting to break the Guinness Book of World Records by sailing 3,000 miles across the Atlantic in 55 days. Before they sailed off, Christine Persichetti spoke to them about their daring trip. She asked them why they decided to make such a harrowing and long journey and what they would need to complete it.
Well, the idea came to me after I did an ocean row a number of years ago, east to west, so from Europe to the Caribbean, and I just thought I could make a huge impact by being one of the people who can row into their hometown. So I set about putting it together, and then about a year later, asked Gussie Fergus here if he wanted to be part of it, and thankfully he said yes.
All right, and I know you're hoping to make it to Ireland in 55 days. That's about 8 weeks. But how will you stay safe? I mean, there could be storms, your boat could flip over, right? What are you going to eat? There are so many questions.
First of all, we've stored 60 days worth of food underneath the cabin and underneath where we row. Then in terms of safety, we have a lot of safety equipment on board, and we've like safety equipment on top of safety equipment. And then also the most important thing is not to get detached from the boat, because if you get detached from our boat, it's there's no coming back.
All right, it's still got to be a little scary though, Fergus. No, are you a little scared?
I don't feel scared, because I've never encountered anything that I'm going to encounter out here. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of moments where I am very scared. But right now, I don't feel scared. I just feel motivated, and I feel like I want to get on that board and start rowing.
All right, Damien, you said you've done this before. How do you prepare yourself for these kinds of excursions?
We've been preparing physically for about a year, mentally for probably longer, if you just think of visualizing what we're going to go through on a very kind of natural level. And technically, we've been trying to put it together for the last kind of 3.5 years in terms of building the boat, getting the exact specifications and optimization of the boat. So it's quite a time-consuming and a huge kind of endeavor to try and to learn about and just upskill yourself with.
I guess it'd be nice for Damien to have somebody along for the ride this time. And I know, Fergus, you were given holy water and rosary beads from your parents. How will God get you through these 2 months on the ocean?
Hopefully it just keeps us fresh, keeps us always thinking and making sure that safety first, safety first, safety first. So if we get that in front of us all the time, we will come back safe and sound.
Again, that was Damien Brown and Fergus Farrow. We'll be checking in on them. By the time they wrap up, summer will almost be over. And that wraps up Currents News. I'm Michelle Powers. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.